Hi, I'm Bill Hodges, and this is Spotlight on Government. And we have with us today Paul Anderson, who is the new CEO of the Tampa Port Authority. Paul, wonderful to have you here in Tampa.
Bill, thank you. It's delightful to be here and great day to be in this beautiful Tampa Bay region.
Even though it just took you 45 minutes to get from St. Petersburg over to here?
Yeah, well, there's some things in life you just can't control.
Well, isn't that part of the port?
That's right. We are constantly dealing with issues you can't control, like Mother Nature.
You know, it's fun to have you here. You've only been here 2 months, correct?
That's correct.
And where did you come in from?
Well, Bill, I spent the last 2 years as the Chief Executive Officer of Jacksonville Port Authority. And prior to that, I'd spent a couple years running a shipping company out of South Florida. That's correct. Okay. We were running tankers and carrying liquid bulk products from Latin America to the U.S. coast. Prior to that, I spent 5 years as a federal regulator at the Federal Maritime Commission in Washington, D.C., which is a presidentially appointed position where you regulate the ocean container industry and all of the related services that go into that industry. It's a $1 trillion industry, truly global in nature. It was a very a significant honor for me to be appointed by the President and then confirmed by the United States Senate to do that job. And many of your viewers might know another company prior to that. I spent 10 years with JM Family Enterprises, one of Florida's largest companies, privately held, and their flagship company, Southeast Toyota Distributors.
Oh, really?
So they're distributing Toyotas to the 5 southeastern U.S. states. And then prior to that, 10 years with a diversified international maritime transportation company out of Port Everglades, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So I've had a very diverse career. It's been exciting, and it's just great to be here working in the Tampa Bay area.
That's fascinating. You really do bring to the table a lot of different experiences.
Yeah, I found that I spent almost 20 years with 2 different companies, and both here in Florida. Great state. I'm a Floridian at heart. I came here to go to University of Florida for my undergrad. And
didn't you say earlier when talking you're a journalism major?
A journalism major, yeah, quite it is. It just goes to show for any of your younger viewers out there that you never know what life is going to throw at you. I think it was Yogi Berra said he came to a fork in the road and he took it, and that sort of has personified some of my career choices.
You know, I have to tell you that mine mirror yours all the way along, practically. Not same industry, but I got bored with this, so I went over and did this for a while. That's fascinating.
Yeah. Sometimes life just presents these opportunities to you, and when you're younger especially, sometimes you don't think about it maybe as much as you do when you get a little bit older. You see an opportunity, it sounds like it's exciting, and a lot of times that's the only opportunity that you have, and you need to get to work and get going. So it's been really great. I am a big fan of the philosophy is that you never know where life is going to take you. It really does.
Just have to be prepared.
That's right.
Suitcase packed and ready to go. Speaking of that, suitcase packed and ready to go, have you already moved here, or are you still commuting back and forth?
Yes, Bill. My wife and son and I are in the process of trying to relocate. I'm commuting for the most part. My wife is looking for work here, and in the meantime, I'm living over on Harbor Island, and have a apartment for hopefully a short term, and we're looking for a home.
That's close to work anyway.
It's very close. I can walk to work.
And when you say your wife is looking for work, didn't you tell me she was an attorney working for a judge?
That's correct. She's a clerk for a federal judge.
So the kind of work she's looking for is kind of specific, right?
Yeah, it is. But
don't call in. We don't need burger chef positions or anything like that. And your son, how old is he?
I have a 5-year-old son.
Oh, I bet you miss him to death.
I miss him terribly when we're apart during the week.
I love the fact that you have not only private industry experience, but government experience. And how would you're CEO of the Tampa Port Authority, how would you classify the Port Authority? Is it government? Is it private? How do you classify
it's
that?
a very interesting question, and I think for your viewers, it's really important for them to understand. While we're a port authority and we're chartered by the Florida legislature, so it makes us sort of a quasi-government agency, I think it's really, really important to understand that we are competing in a very competitive global and regional environment. And as such, we're competing with private sector businesses, and we need to act, look, and feel in many ways like a private company. Because we're competing. We don't, while we are able to have a very small $500,000 on the local tax roll, we've used that in the past. We only have about, I think, a quarter of our current capacity on that. The rest of the money that we're earning, our revenue, is through marketing, sales, and attracting companies to do business here, to bring their company here, locate employees, and operate the port. We're a landlord port, which means we lease our land. We don't actually go out and operate on the docks. But I look at my job as an economic developer for this region. Our job is to sell this region to companies around the world, both domestic, that are global in nature, U.S. companies, we have many of those, such as CSX Transportation. Everybody knows their railroads.
Sure.
Mosaic.
You got that brand new big highway coming in.
We have a brand new rail facility that was just opened in November, which is, I'll talk a little bit about that. And then we look at international companies. Many of you that understand a little bit about ports all think that we are for cruise ships. And while that is true, and it's
I bet you went out and you asked the average guy on the street, what's the Port Authority do? You say, oh, there's Carnival and there's Norwegian and
Royal Caribbean, Holland America. We're gonna I get a plug for all of our customers, and those are our customers. And we have to compete to attract those there. And we have to build good facilities. We have to make sure that we're partners in how we do business with them, because you know, that is an economic development function.
Before we leave, I want the one phrase you used, we're a landlord port. Would you explain that a little bit more for the listeners and for myself?
Yes, all of the ports in Florida, and we're blessed with this great peninsula of ours with almost 20 million people, and last year almost 90 million visitors to our state. Our ports are used for bringing in various cargoes, trade with global trade, particularly Latin America. All of our ports in Florida are landlord ports. In other words, we have the land. It's owned by, in this case, the county, and it's chartered by the legislature, and we lease property to these companies from around the world.
The county owns the land?
That's the
port.
The port does, really.
The port does.
We are an independent port authority, owned by the port, and then we lease to customers. So we're not operating the cranes if we're unloading cargo off the ships. We're not operating the terminals. We don't have the stevedores. We're not provisioning the ships.
Okay, so when I see the Carnival cruise ship pulled up to the dock, they're leasing that space from the Port Authority.
That's correct.
They don't own that.
They don't own that. That's correct. And that's just a terminal, just like if you go take a flight on U.S. Airways or American at the airport, they're leasing that terminal space from the airport, and that makes it for easier way for your viewers to understand. The difference between a landlord port and an operating port, such as ports in Savannah, all the way to New York City, is they are actually operating those ports, and the employees out on the docks are all employees of either the state or the port.
Oh,
so there's a very
hence the big unions.
It's a very different operating model or business model than what Florida employs. And what it does is it means we go out and find really good tenants that will optimize this land that the taxpayers at one point bought this land or assembled it and developed it for the use of the tenants so that we could create jobs and economic impact on this community.
And the impact here is huge.
It's huge.
Would you talk how many people did you say it drew?
Well, we are
tourism-wise.
well, the state of Florida had 90 million visitors last year, 89, just under 90. But as far as jobs, our direct, indirect, and related jobs are going to be close to 100,000 jobs in the region related to the port's activities. And that starts with those companies that come here, their employees that work on the docks, that run the cranes, your truck drivers that are driving in and out of the port, your rail employees that work on that railroad, all the way down to the retail level. Those are indirectly related jobs to the industry. The maritime industry is really, most people don't understand it. They take for granted the maritime industry and what it does to supply the everyday commerce that we do in this country, the everyday goods that everybody uses, and it's 98% of all cargo that is imported into the U.S. comes by ship.
Wow, that's a lot.
We were founded as a maritime nation, and that is what made us great and what continues to make us great. And another, I think, very interesting fact for your readers, if you think about your history, every major city, you can start in Boston, going back to the Mayflower. They originally split off. Harbors were safe harbor for ships, sailing ships. And where there was a safe harbor, a city grew up around it, such as Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Norfolk, Charleston, Savannah, Key West, Tampa, Mobile. I mean, we could go on. And then up the Mississippi River. And ports were here before the city. They were just a safe place. And then the cities grew up because it was a good way, before there was rail, before there was interstate highways, to get commerce to the growing country that has emerged over the last almost 250 years.
It's really, as you tell me this, as my mind is spinning, and as I think to various things, it's almost impossible to divorce the port from anything that happens here in the city of Tampa or in Hillsborough County or in this part of Florida.
You just can't. I think for your average viewer out there, think of every time you walk into a Walmart, a Costco, a Target, buy a car. They're coming in, a lot of Americans don't realize all those foreign cars are coming in on ships.
A lot of those passengers coming in at the airport are coming over to the port to go
That's
somewhere.
correct. Coal for our coal-fired plants. Gas, liquid bulk. We import a lot of our fuel, as you know, and right here at the Port of Tampa, it's one of our largest commodities that we carry. And in fact, we are just finishing a $55 million improvement to handle fuel, which will make it, it was old, it's renewing this infrastructure, and that's part of our job, is we strategically plan for the future. We have to
So you build the buildings, you build the tank
That's correct.
sites, this sort of thing, and then those companies contract to use them from you.
That's correct. The bulkheads, and we're also responsible for working with the United States government and the Army Corps of Engineers to maintaining, since we have a long ship channel, which almost everybody
That's got to
here in
be a
Tampa
bear.
Bay-
I wanted to talk about the ship channel and the bridge and all that, because
Yes.
that's something. I've watched the boats zigzag as they go out. They don't go straight out.
Yeah, we have a very long, complex channel that ships navigate, starting with the sea buoy, which some 40 miles out, and they come in, and that's why we were talking about Mother Nature earlier. During this time of the year, sometimes our ships will be delayed because of the inversion that we get at this time of the year, and we get fog.
Oh, yeah.
And that's complexity into a port. And a port in a maritime community is a very complex living organism that supplies the backbone of the commerce. It's the gateway for our country's commerce, both imports and exports to the rest of the world. And the commodities that we are involved with moving for our citizens, both in the Tampa Bay region and the rest of the country, are the real dollars of the world today come in those commodities.
I was thinking about that bridge when you mentioned the buoy out farther.
That's correct.
And the inversions and all the things that happen. Fog's rolling in, the inversions. One of the things I remember was I went across the Skyway Bridge, the old one, about a month after it was reopened. And it was a scary thing looking out there and seeing part of it gone. I was never so happy to get to the other side of it.
Yeah, that was in 1982 we had a tragic accident here. I remember it well. I was in a journalism class and we were tasked with writing about that each day. It was big news at the time. And the decision was made, as I understand it, by then Governor Graham led with our legislature to rebuild the new Skyway Bridge. And of course, one of the things that we deal with in our business every day is the world is constantly changing. And most people live with that in their lives, but truly the global economy changes every day. Banking changes in Cyprus or in what's going on with a tsunami in Japan, as we saw a year and a half ago.
The butterfly effect.
It changes our world because it's very complex. That changed our world. But also in the last 35 years, nobody could have imagined that ships would be getting as big as they are getting today.
I can't imagine it now.
Yeah.
A friend of mine was talking about being on one of the new super cruise ships, and it just boggled my mind.
Yes, our ships here, for anybody who has seen them, they're very large. All of our cruise partners operate. They're about 2,500 passengers. The largest ships today, the Allure of the Seas, which calls down in Port Everglades, and that class of vessels are now holding almost 5,500 passengers. So the term floating city is truly the right way to describe it. And they're wider, they're longer, and they're also higher.
So how does Tampa compete? We aren't going to replace that bridge right away. At least I don't imagine we're going to.
Well, I think that,
and our channels are only so large, I would think.
Our channels will handle the larger ships.
Will
the restrictor
so
will
we need
be
to blow the bridge?
The restrictor would be the bridge. And while I understand there was some consideration back in those days to build a tunnel, we have a bridge that is now a landmark of our region here. It's a beautiful, masterful piece of architecture, and we are looking at all the ways that you can to try and grow with our cruise partners, but they've made investments in vessels that are here today that should last for at least the next 5 to 7 years, because that's what they've made, refurbish those vessels.
But that's no time in the long run, is it?
And in the short term, in the long term, we have to look at every option that's available to us to handle what you called super ships. We're calling them mega cruise ships of that class that handles over 5,000 passengers. And that may at some point in the future, with the community's involvement, with all of the stakeholders involved, be looking at doing something either on the other side of the bridge, because this community, I think, understands enough about commerce and economic impact. You don't want to lose that. That's part of what Tampa is we are a destination for passengers to come here, whether they drive in from those 90 million visitors a year or 20 million residents and get on a cruise ship. We have a great Western Caribbean and to Mexico, and some great destinations that Tampa provides based on our geographic locations. So it's going to be part of our strategic planning process as we look forward and we vision what we're going to be for this community. But again, we'll be doing that with key stakeholders throughout the community.
I can imagine that is going to be one circus when you've got all the political jurisdictions sitting out there saying, no, I don't want to move this, you can't move that. What does take in, if you're going to draw a line around the Port of Tampa, where would you draw the line? What part is, I know Port Manatee is sitting down there, that's not part of the Port of Tampa, is it, or is it?
No, that's a separate port authority. I mentioned earlier there's 15 ports now in Florida.
Okay. What about St. Pete?
And St. Pete is also a separate port. But let me throw this out for your viewers. I really like to think much bigger than just what the geographic boundary is.
Go wild.
Because as I said, we impact, for example, we bring in all the fuel for almost 10 million people in Central Florida. We are a critical and strategic port for that reason. We impact the I-4 corridor, which everybody knows how important that is, not just in an election, but to this state as far as commerce, citrus, home building, and tourism. And we play a large role in that. So I'm thinking regionally, and we really need to have a regional approach to how we think about our ports. And we truly impact. Tampa is the primary port for this region. We are for exporting and importing what we call bulk, all the fertilizer that was a mainstay in this community as an export commodity, fuel as both an import. We are now getting a lot of ethanol, which is both import and export, believe it or not. And then containers. We've recently built and completed a new container facility, which we only handled 40,000. When I say only, to put that in perspective, Miami, Port Everglades, and Jacksonville do about 1 million containers a year. Savannah, just to the north of Jacksonville, does 3 million a year. So we're in the sort of a fledgling infancy of building a container business. But this CSX rail, the Tampa rail terminal that we've just built on dock, will allow us to market Tampa to ocean carriers and the companies that own cargo to get more containers.
Am I putting too much emphasis on the cruise business?
Absolutely.
Sounds to me like there's a whole lot more business besides the cruise business to worry about than a few folks going off on vacation, even though it's a large number.
That is, you said it well. I think that while people like to associate a port with the passenger side of the business.
That's what you see.
That's what you see. But if you were to really dig into the details, it's all of the other commodities that we're utilizing every day that are so make ports so critical as true gateways to the rest of the world.
And I assume there'll always be a need for these smaller ships. We put 5,000 passengers, 4,000 passengers on a ship. That's still a pretty good sized ship.
Well, the demographics are always going to be there, and we're going to be have cruise business, I think, as long as we have a port in this region. And I think it's a wonderful business. But we're focused on not just expanding our cruise business, which we are, and we will be announcing some new partnerships that we have and growth in that area. But we're focused on growing the cargo, because cargo is where you really see the trickle-down effect on job creation. And our mission is jobs, jobs, jobs.
Yes.
Creating jobs. And as I said, it's not for Tampa. It's for the Tampa Bay region. All the way, I considered our boundaries all the way east of Orlando, all the way down into southwest Florida, and the surrounding Bay Area for our geographic reach.
Well, there's no more large ports outside of here going south, is there?
We are clearly the large major port for the Gulf side of the state of Florida, this huge peninsula. The other blessing that we have is a lot of land. We also have a very healthy bottom line and balance sheet. We do make a profit. We have relatively low debt service compared to a lot of other ports. And we also have great geography as it relates to reaching into Mexico, Latin America. We're a straight shot. And think of how close in proximity we are with land to a major market that could open at some point in the future, and that would be Cuba. So we really are well positioned as a community with this asset that we have that serves all of us in many different ways. And I will tell you, it's exciting to be part of it. It's exciting to be here to help vision and plan and lead the growth that will take place to create the jobs that go along with growing a port.
We're down to about 3 minutes. Is there anything you'd like to say that I haven't covered, say directly to the folks that are listening?
Absolutely. I would just say that when you think of the Tampa port, I would have you visualize this regional impact that we're having every day on this community, on your livelihoods. Our team at the port is going to do our very best to be good managers of the asset that we have the responsibility for building new jobs. The projects that we bring to the table will be economic development type of projects that will bring good paying, high wage jobs to this community. It's one of our key drivers and key missions that we focus on. We would love for you to take a cruise out of our port, as Bill and I have discussed. It's a big part of what we do and an important part, but also understand how much of an impact it has on so many other areas and cargo that goes into the stores that you shop at every day. And we are going to be very good managers of this beautiful asset that we have for this region.
Can you put your arms around kind of a diagram of where the port covers?
Port, yeah, the physical footprint of the port is South Tampa, south of the I-4, downtown. Many of you know where the arena is,
okay.
Going down due south about 4 or 5 miles, then coming back around. And the other thing that's important to know is the Tampa Port Authority owns all the bottom of all of the water on the submerged lands in Hillsborough County.
So I can't wait around.
So it is a pretty dynamic footprint that allows us to be the job creators and economic engine that we are for this community.
Well, Paul, I am so excited you shared this with us, and I expect you to come back. Would you come back?
Absolutely.
I've got a whole list of questions I wrote on my sleeve here.
You just can't do this in 30 minutes. It goes by really fast. I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you.
Well, I hope you get some time with your family, too. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Bill Hodges, and this has been Paul Anderson, the CEO of the Tampa Port Authority, brand new to Tampa. I hope everybody will take the time to welcome him and make sure that everything goes the way I know Paul can take us. You're unique, you're special, and you're great. Tell yourself so often because you are, you know. We'll see you on the next Spotlight on Government. And again, Paul, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Bill.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared. Sometimes my parents have to take me to the hospital. I feel like a fish with no water.
You know how to react to their asthma attacks. Here's how to prevent them. Call 1-866-NO-ATTACKS. Visit www.noattacks.org or call your doctor. Because even one attack is one too many.